While there is no conclusive data to prove it, players say the playoff lights are brighter. 75 years of NBA folklore tells us of glorious occasions when men become legends and their true skills are tested under the pressure cooker that is the NBA playoffs. The postseason magnifies everything from the smallest of calls to the filthiest of dunks. What men do in the playoff echoes through the ages, and this year's playoffs were no different. We saw Luka humiliate the Phoenix Suns, Morant going back and forth with Steph Curry, and Giannis absolutely refusing to go down, and much more. Today, let's go over who are the top 10 players of the 2022 NBA playoffs. Number 10, Andrew Wiggins. A lot of times the role you play is more important than your individual contribution, and that's the case with our 10th ranked player on the list, Andrew Wiggins. Although Wiggins might lack the shiny numbers associated with star players, there's no doubt that he was vital to this finals run. Steph Curry was ridiculous, but Wiggins' double-doubles in games 4 and 5 and his defense on Tatum essentially saved the Warriors' season and helped them capture their 4th championship in 8 years. His presence on the glass and as a reliable scorer was exactly what the doctor ordered against a Boston team that was expected to have the advantage down low in the paint. While it's easy to call it Steph, Dre, and Klay's revenge tour, this finals run was a complete team effort and showed why their iconic slogan of strength in numbers fits them perfectly. And the part Wiggins played, he played pitch perfectly and beyond what anyone expected of a player who many had given up on. Number 9, Klay Thompson. Another Warrior on the list, you say? Well, when you win the NBA Finals, you do end up in lists like these. And when you do it after a gruesome injury that led to heartbreak in 2019, it makes everything so much more historic. While this may not be the vintage Klay Thompson we are used to seeing, make no mistake, he still remains a potent threat that can have a scoring outburst for the ages. After he sent the Mavericks home in the Western Conference Final with a masterpiece performance in Game 5, there was little doubt that the two-way ace that helped establish the Golden State dynasty had returned to claim his rightful place as the league's most dangerous player on any given night. Klay averaged 19 points on 38.5% from 3, and in addition, he displayed his defensive prowess when it was needed most. Somehow, someway, Thompson still has the stamina and the offensive pedigree to whiz past screens and find the open shot, especially when the team needs it most. If he doesn't get the shot, no matter. Klay has always been above the pretty discourse of being an alpha scorer who scores just for scoring's sake. When he scores or attempts to, it's only for the win and nothing more or less. And that's what makes him such a terrifying opponent, his vast offensive skills and his dedication to his team's success. He's not quite the same player anymore, but he gets the job done and then some. Number 8, Jaylen Brown. While Brown has faults of his own that can rear their ugly head when you least want them, it's not a controversial opinion to suggest that without Brown, the Celtics wouldn't even be sniffing the NBA Finals. Jaylen's journey from just a defensive specialist to a 3-and-D extraordinaire to an all-star has been nothing short of amazing. Over the last half-decade, he has consistently been the Robin to Tatum's Batman, sometimes even unfairly so. While he lacked the maturity and experience to be an effective threat against Golden State, his run to the finals was still spectacular, with many iconic moments. Another year in the pressure cooker, and we might very well see Jaylen Brown at the top of the list, along with his partner in crime. After all, he already has all the physical and offensive tools in his repertoire. Number 7, Nikola Jokic. Speaking of offensive repertoires, Jokic has it all. For each and every team in the league, Nikola just has too much in his bag. That's probably why the NBA gods just refuse to have his team completely healthy. He only played 5 games against the Warriors, but his averages of 31 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists are on a legendary level. No other center in history has had the passing abilities and soft touch that Jokic possesses, and many wonder just how much the game is changing because of him. I mean, centers these days are bringing the ball up, are stretching the floor, and are playing a much more active role in the offense. But none can do it quite like the Joker. Number 6, Morant. It's hard to consider Morant just a third-year player with the leadership skill he possesses. I mean, it was fully on display when Ja was rallying the entire locker room behind him as the Grizzlies shocked the Warriors in a historic Game 2 upset that saw Morant drop a 47-point masterclass. All of this adds to the legend of Morant, who feels like he's the most exciting player in the NBA right now. And every second that the ball stays in his hands, you just know something electrifying is about to happen. The first round clash against the Timberwolves was a perfect cap-off to a brilliant season during which Morant led the Grizzlies to the second best record in the league. But instead of bulldozing his way through the competition like so many expected, Ja has instead shown a much more calculated side to his player persona, dishing out assists left and right as the defenses around him collapsed on him, giving his teammates a golden opportunity to seal the deal. While the strategy worked in the first round, an injury to Morant put a full stop to any plans of a finals run as his team faltered against the Warriors without him. Number 5, Luka Doncic. There's nobody quite like Doncic, a foreign player who, as a 19-year-old rookie, once told reporters that the NBA's defense was much easier to play against than in Europe. I mean, he took that to full display when he just completely humiliated the Phoenix Suns in that Game 7, which is probably the worst beatdown in Game 7 history. His average of 31.7 points per game doesn't even tell the full story of how he is completely dominating the offense with his vision, passing, and basketball IQ. In the end, however, Luka and the Mavericks never did have an answer for Golden State, who just had to zero in on Doncic and watch the rest of the team fall apart. Number 4, Giannis Antetokounmpo. As the finals came to an end and as the NBA world readies itself for the upcoming season, Antetokounmpo's playoff domination will likely be forgotten. But without a doubt, Giannis was the most terrifying player on the face of the earth as the playoffs kicked off, and the carnage he created through the first 2 rounds was historic in and of itself. He became the only player in league history to compile 200 points, 100 rebounds, and 50 assists in a single series. What fans were seeing in Antetokounmpo's performances reminded many of Shaq in his prime, dominating the opposition and eating to spare for lunch. His second round performance was also brilliant in its own right as he put up 3 40-point games along with a pair of 20 rebound games against the Celtics. Giannis's continuing improvement as a mid-range shooter and playmaker continues to terrify players, coaches, and execs alike, and if Chris Middleton was healthy, we might have seen a completely different finals matchup. Without a doubt, Antetokounmpo remains the most physically dominant player in the world entering the 2022-2023 NBA season. Number 3, Jimmy Butler. Fans and analysts alike were completely sure that the 2020 NBA Finals were the last time we would get a glimpse of the potential greatness of Jimmy Butler. But if Jimmy could do it once, you can bet your house that he can do it again. The entire postseason for the Heat was a tour de force of a single man on a mission, taking an outmatched squad to the promised land. Consequences be damned. Butler dropped 35-point games 6 times, with 3 of them coming against Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, showing everyone that the 32-year-old still has enough juice to drag his team to the top of the NBA world. While he did miss that potential game-winning, series-winning 3-point dagger against Boston, he proved to the world that when it comes to the playoffs, he's one of the best in the league. Number 2, Jason Tatum. Tatum has always been a lethal scorer. Comparisons to Kobe don't just come about because you wear his shoes. It's all in the game. But what impressed me about his run to the finals was how he diagnosed offensive schemes and countered with brilliant tactics of his own. Is a double team getting too close? Pass across court to the shooters. Are offensive lanes clogged up? Pass it to Al Horford as you draw away 2 defenders from the opposite wing. Need a clutch basket before time runs out? Recognize that Kyrie is the only one in the paint due to Marcus Smart drawing away attention, and immediately attack that position for a pass and win against the Nets in what proves to be a vital game. Tatum has been methodical in his approach to the game, and this clinical nature is a much closer appropriation of Kobe's mentality than his fadeaway can ever be. But even though I praised his offensive maturity, his trump card is still his deadly ISO offense, where his improved post-up game created one of the league's best individual scorers. It really is telling of Jason's abilities that even while sharing the court with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, Tatum was the best player on the floor. Although we saw him falter against the Warriors, do you really think Tatum won't be back to where he was a few weeks ago? Like Jimmy Butler said to him after their Game 7 clash, it's Tatum's time to shine. And number 1, Stephen Curry. Steph Curry in the 2022 NBA Finals was nothing short of spectacular. His performance in Game 4 was one of the greatest finals performances I've ever seen, and he rightfully deserves that finals MVP. He single-handedly dismantled one of the greatest defenses I've seen in the last decade, and he made it look pretty easy. 31 points per game, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists while shooting nearly 44% from 3-point range. Say it with me, guys. Sheesh. Similar to Klay, he might very well be past his prime, but because of his marksmanship, Curry still remains an offensive black hole for teams as he draws so much attention that you're always susceptible to layups, screens, and inside plays. This 2022 version of Steph looked like a much better ball handler, and his vision has finally opened up so much more possibilities in his game that it almost looked like a different, more evolved version of Curry than we had been used to seeing. While his threes have always been deadly and precise, Steph's floater game, along with his drives to the rim, were two highly effective ways in which he kept Boston's defenders guessing and on their toes. The brilliance of his playmaking, cool-headed decision-making, lethal floater game, and devastating range from three makes Steph the most unique player we've ever seen and, without a doubt, the best player in the 2022 NBA playoffs, and he rightfully deserves that top spot. Anyways, if you're wondering where Steph ranks now on the NBA's top 10 greatest ever list, then you're going to want to watch this video. Hurry and click the video, guys, because I'm already on the other side.